Good evening. I hope you're all settled down well with a brew or maybe even a beer. Unfortunately for me, it's tea at the moment because this is a pre-recorded presentation. Hello. Just have a sip of my tea. My name's Terry Abraham. I'm a Cumbrian-based filmmaker and photographer. Not born and bred in Cumbria, I was born in Nottingham and dragged up all over the country really over the years. But for the last decade or so, I've spent a lot of time in Cumbria through backpacking, wild camping, and obviously now filmmaking and photography. And I'm a self-taught filmmaker. I'm not formally qualified or trained in that field. I've always had an interest in film. It was through redundancy really and a couple of health scares, one being a suspected heart attack, that sort of propelled me on the path that I'm on now. The redundancy was a wake-up call, and I thought, well, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to chase this dream of being a filmmaker that I've always had from a very young age, but combine that with my passion for the outdoors and the countryside. So as a wee reminder, I'm going to play you a couple of trailers from some recent work.
500 million years, what mortal could define such chiseled art, a world apart, a monument of timeless time and spirits, like an eagle's soar and glide, where mountains meet the sky. Where mountains meet the sky. Where mountains meet the sky.
So hopefully that's whetted the appetite a little bit for what we've got in store. To be honest, I'm no Wordsworth. I'm not a wordsmith or anything like that. I like to express my feelings in visual form, not necessarily with my face or hands or anything like that, but through visual media, which is obviously film and photography, but primarily film, of course. So some nice reviews in those little trailers from National Press, eh? They were from Life of Mountain Scafell Pike and Life of Mountain Blencathra. That's how I sort of made my name, really. Scafell Pike was my second documentary. I did one about the Cairngorms with legendary long-distance walker and backpacker Chris Townsend. But that was a short one, really, and it was sort of testing ground for me to enable me in terms of building my confidence and craft and skills in terms of filmmaking with producing the one that I had in my head for a long time, because at that point I'd been self-employed as a filmmaker doing corporate videos, business videos really, for lots of different businesses in the Peak District, but a lot of the focus was on selling the location. And I didn't really want to do anything like that anymore. I wanted to do something that I wanted to do, that was produce a documentary. and that's when I came up with the idea of a year in the life of Scafell Pike, because I first visited the Lake District as a 13-year-old boy, and I was blown away. Even though I grew up in the countryside and the farm, and my grandparents had a very profound impact on me, being from a broken home, as it was called back then. So basically my parents got divorced, but my biological father, as I call him, wasn't a very, very nice man. Used to beat me about a bit, and my mother too. So spending lots of time with my grandparents on their farm had a profound impact on me. My grandmother, she survived the concentration camps of World War II and came to Britain afterwards. She had a real big interest and love in heritage and history, and always drilled that into me. So she'd always be taking me to museums. Presents I would get would be encyclopedias and stuff. But I loved it. I found it all fascinating, and I really, really enjoyed it. Because she always sort of drilled into me. And I look back now, in retrospect, it's obvious why. She used to drill into me that, you only get one life, make the most of it, try and be happy whatever it is. It doesn't have to be anything ambitious or over the top like some people may think. It's all about humility and respecting history and learning from history and respecting other people. So I suppose her interests, her passions affected me, and down the line, of course, influenced me in what I did with the documentaries about Scafell Pike and Blencathra. The authenticity, the people's voice, the people that live in the area, care for the area and play in the area and all that kind of thing. And then my grandfather, his big love was the countryside, and he came over here as a prisoner of war. He was a German and chose to settle here. He loved it here in Britain. So a German met a Russian, because my grandmother was Russian, and eventually I came out down on the family tree. So his love for the countryside again had a very profound impact on me. My love for nature, being happy in my own company, out and about in fields, in forests, and we do some Ramirez type stuff, if you like. We'd go build shelters. He had some woodland because it was passed on to him because he was a gamekeeper and things like that, as well as a farmer. And so we'd spend nights in the woods and things like that, and looking out for foxes and what have you. And I suppose those things combined, really. And like a lot of things in life, I suppose, well, I have this saying, the environment shapes you. And that probably could be more apt today, given the sort of environmentalism agenda that's high up on people's minds now. But the environment shapes you. So part of my language, if you're unfortunate enough to live in an environment that's very negative, a bit of a dump and all that kind of thing, as I certainly did growing up on the council estates and stuff like that. Not that I saw it as terrible back then as a young boy, I must admit. But, it can affect your character, can affect your attitude onto life. But what I found coming to the Lake District as a 13-year-old boy, despite the support of my grandparents and stuff like that, seeing places like the Lake District affected me, even from my humble roots. And I had this long-held dream that one day I wanted to live in Cumbria. I felt like it was my spiritual home. Lots of people say that, I love the area, but, cut me and I bleed the fells, basically. And I love all of Cumbria. It's not just about the Lake District. It really is the most beautiful county in the country as far as I'm concerned. Closely followed by Yorkshire, in case there's any Yorkshire folk watching. But, all of Northern England's beautiful, really. You could argue that most of Northern England ought to be a national park or an AONB. But, yes, I'm waffling. And I forgot what I was going to talk about. But, excuse me. So if, hands up those, I can't see you, but give us a nod in agreement if you've seen Life from Mountain Scafell Pike on the BBC. And again for Life from Mountain Blencathra, because they proved to be extremely popular. They're big hits, and changed my life overnight. But they are just our versions, because you can, if you go online and look in shops, buy the full Monty cut. There's Scafell Pike on DVD, and if you can see it because of the sun bouncing through the window, and there's Blencathra. And the documentaries are up to 2 hours long, and so there's a lot more going on. So if you did enjoy them, I do recommend you buy these, because somebody told me not so long ago, they reminded me of those old Pate movies. So they're like time capsules, he described to me, which I never really thought about when I went about doing them. But I suppose if you like the shots that I do, the main reason I should say I get shots like that for my love for wild camping. You know, there's nothing I enjoy more than being out on the fells in all weathers, all seasons, and then spending the night out there. For me personally, it's without wanting to sound overly emotive about it all, because I'm not a big softie. I might be deep down, I'm a little kitten or a puppy down inside, but on the outside I don't really like to get all soft and gooey. But I just feel so connected. You know, I'm not a religious man. I often joke I'm a practicing atheist, but I would consider myself, nowadays at least, I suppose, I do acknowledge maybe I'm a spiritual person, maybe I'm a spiritualist. I feel this connection to people and places and the environment, you know, and I think some of that has really helped me in terms of capturing beautiful views of the fells through the seasons. And recently, in the last year, some of my most favourite shoots have been capturing wildlife of the area, which is not as easy as you think. You know, you have to really hunt them down, and I don't mean literally hunt, of course, but you know, seek them out, and it does require a lot of patience. But I've been really quite fortunate at times, getting so unbelievably close to wildlife that I've never really seen with my own eyes before, bar in books or on TV or in zoos. And those experiences, yeah, they give me a big rush. I feel like I'm on cloud 9. But anyway, I'm going to show you a clip now. And so it's, you know, I do other things as well. I often produce outdoorsy DVDs of the Lake District, featuring walks and things like that. Never sought to approach TV about them to be broadcasted. They just go straight onto DVD, and then they go online and in shops and stuff like that, and they do very well. And so I'm going to show you a clip from one now, and it features my good friend David Powell Thompson, a Cumbrian legend, TV researcher and mountain guide. You may recognise him with his bushy beard and long hair from Julia Bradbury's Wainwright Walks TV series, where he crops up sometimes. I remember the first time I saw David on that episode featuring Blencathra, and he's guiding Julia, who's absolutely frightened to death, going along Sharp Edge. If you've not done it before, it's a narrow arete, you know. It's not for the faint-hearted. And I was blown away, just thinking, this guy looks so cool, and I can't believe he's like, you know, in his 60s, and he's just so nimble. He's like a bloody polecat. He really is. He still is now. Still goes fell running and everything. And I've just recently finished producing another Walks DVD with him, which was good fun, albeit tiring because I've been busy with my Helvellyn film. But it was good to get out and do something different. So I'm going to show you this scene from one of the DVDs I did with him, and it, for me, it's one of my favourite shoots I've ever done, and also one of my most favourite scenes I've ever put together and edited. Now, it is a bit slow, so you might fall asleep, but do persevere with it, because what I was trying to do was capture the atmosphere of a wild camp, and hopefully that gives you an idea, with the visual expression I like to talk about, of why I like wild camping.
See what the new Daig has for us. Ah, it's superb. Moon's up and look at that dawn. Could not be better. And there's even temperature inversion. The good people of these little valleys are all living under a cloud. But we're not. Absolutely clear skies. Absolutely fabulous. Yeah. And almost 12 hours sleep. Time to get a brew on. Oh, I see. Yeah, almost boiling. I get this done and I can get over there and watch the sun come up over those eastern fells. Just magic. Come on. The joy of insulated cups. It just gets better. Two minutes past 7. It is. And there's the sun. Any moment now the globe of the sun is just going to break that horizon. Although it's been light enough to wander around for the last half hour or so. Can there be a better place to have breakfast? Cheers to hot chocolate. Well, the sun is just about to emerge over the far eastern fells, and I can look down onto Langdale Pikes, Windermere, Wands Fell, all those little fells that long line up through Froswick and places like that onto High Street. Fairfield there, Bowfell, the edge of Bowfell here. You just don't get sights like that unless you've stayed up here overnight. Unless you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and flog up here in the dark. Just far better for that little bit of extra effort. Bring your tent up here, your stove, sleeping bag, and just enjoy it. Just really, really enjoy it. Superb. It is just amazing how quickly the sun comes up behind the horizon. You'd think it would take quite a long time, but it's actually only a matter of minutes from the first rays to the full globe being visible. And now we're in daylight. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And Angletarn looking still as dark and as forbidding as it has done all the time I've been here. Well, I'm going to have to go back to the tent and have something to eat, take it down, pack up and continue my walk over Esk Pike, down to Ore Gap, Bowfell, and then see what happens.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed that. So I set about doing Scafell Pike. I had little money in my pocket. I crowdfunded some money with the public, but it took me over 2 years to produce, and I very nearly didn't complete it because I'd run out of money. And it was only thanks to broadcaster Eric Robson, who I got to know at that point in the pubs round Wasdale, who helped me out, loaned me some cash to get it completed. Never forget him saying, "You get that film finished, boy. It's going to change your life overnight." Because he'd seen little clips. I'd put little edits together and put them on my phone, and I'd show locals in the pub, so they'd get an understanding and an idea of what I was up to. Because initially a lot of people locally were like, "Who's this young whippersnapper doing some film about bloody Scafell Pike," you know? And so it was my way of helping to build bonds and trust with people, and show, you know, try to convey to them, this is what I'm aiming for, mimicking holding my phone, this is what I'm aiming for, this is what it's about, the documentary. So yeah, but I'd be away from home at the time. I was living in Nottinghamshire with my wife, and it cost me, well, easy £100, probably bloody more now, because I'm going back about 8 years, just to get round to Wasdale on the train, because I don't drive, and I drive my wife nuts for that. I have learnt to drive, I just never bothered going for a licence or anything, and just never felt the need to drive really, because I get by fine by walking, public transport, cycling, and occasionally the taxi of wife, and blagging lifts with friends. But when it was Scafell Pike, I often joke, I'm glad there isn't a council tax ban for camping out in the fells, because I'd be behind bars now. Because I was literally living on the fells around Wasdale for those 2 years. I'd spend like 3-4 nights minimum, depending on the weather. Occasionally it'd be just 2 nights. Sometimes, you know, over a week, so 7 nights plus, and I'd be just camped out on the fells discreetly, out of sight. If I was there for a couple of days, or, you know, more often not, to be honest, it would pitch late, camp, pack early and move on. So I'd have a clear route, or I'd be following my nose with the weather, depending on the time of year, the sort of shots I was hoping to capture on camera. And so I'd have to carry everything, you know, change of clothes, wet wipes, cooking equipment, food, beer. I'd get my water from streams and stuff like that. I say beer, it'd be port or whiskey. You need less, you know, less of it in volume, so it saves your weight and gives you a nice little kick to wind down at the end of a day, when I've been yomping about the fells with a pack that often, especially in winter, be close to 100 kilos, because I'd have all my camera equipment, spare batteries, lenses, you name it, a tripod. Do you know what makes me bloody shudder thinking about it, really? I look back now, I don't know how the hell I did it, really. I really don't. But yeah, and then I finished the documentary, and I was encouraged to get it on at a cinema somewhere, and it had its premiere at the Reghead Centre near Penrith, and yeah, Eric Robson was right. It changed my life overnight. Just that point, you know, because it was a full house, and you know, I make no bones about it, I was mobbed like the Beatles afterwards. I was stunned. I couldn't believe people liked it and thought so highly of it. One of my favourite moments was doing a question and answer session after the film had played with the audience, and somebody asked if the legendary fell runner Joss Naylor had seen it, because I'd got to know him as well, and he did feature in the documentary. And what they didn't realise, the audience member, was Joss was actually in the auditorium with them. And I remember I'm smiling because I was there with the microphone, and I suddenly felt like a little boy, you know, looking up to his daddy or something like that, you know, someone that I really respected, and going, "All right, Joss, what did you think of it?" "Hi, lad, it were bloody brilliant." And he did swear a bit harsher than that, but I've got to be polite, haven't I? And then the audience erupted in laughter. And Joss made the point, you know, those sights had captured in the documentary that few people get to see, and even himself when he was a shepherd, but he totally related to it, the scenes that captured the drama and everything else. So yeah, and then it was a few months later, you know, I was absolutely shattered. Suddenly had a bit of decent money in my pocket from DVD sales and stuff, and you know, it took a big toll on me and my family, because I'd be away for long periods. You know, it was physically tough as well. I just wanted a break, a way to do easier, less demanding projects, if you like, even though it's still work, but not so all-consuming and intensive as doing something like Life of a Mountain. And it was in that period where I kept getting these withheld number calls when I'd be out on the fells, and normally, probably like a lot of you out there, I ignore them because I just think it's, you know, it's bloody spam calls and things like that. And I thought, if it's important, they'll leave me a voicemail. And yeah, no, this happened for about 2-3 weeks, and they would not leave a voicemail until this one occasion at the end of this period. And it turned out with the BBC trying to get hold of me and seeking to show an abridged edit of my film on the telly. And so, yeah, I was stunned. I was over the moon, dead excited about it, until I realised I had to cut the 2-hour film down to 1 hour for television, which was heartbreaking. And we'd be bouncing back and forth from what scenes to cut and shut and things like that. And I got that annoyed with it in the end. I hated it. So when I knew it was going to be going on the telly, I think it was January, I can't really remember now, 2016 maybe. I kept quiet about it. It was just friends and family that knew that it was going on BBC4. Because I thought, well, no one's going to give a monkeys about it. And I hate the bloody edit because there's enough all winter in it, which really bugged me. Because there's quite a lot of winter in the full film. And it was the weekend before it aired, and started getting lots of social media stuff kicking off, and people showing me these press reviews, and they loved it. And I remember thinking, well, bloody hell, what do I know? And then it went on to be a hit. So I was blown away. So I started thinking, well, maybe I should start working on the next one. And because it was always meant to be a trilogy, you know, it was always a passion project of mine, a love letter to the outdoors, really. And so it was going to be Scafell Pike, Ben Nevis and Snowdon. But because of my love for Cumbria, I didn't really want to leave or go anywhere else. And I thought, no, I'm going to do a trilogy of Lakeland Mountains. And so I wanted to do Helvellyn next, because Helvellyn's one of my favourites. I mean, Scafell's, that area, Upper Estill, that is my favourite. Especially Upper Estill, because that's proper, like, sense of wilderness there, and these towering towers of shattered rock and the mountains all around you. It's fantastic. I love that feeling of feeling small and not important in the world, if you know what I mean, sort of connected to nature and everything else. But obviously it's not a wilderness in the truest sense of the word, because it's been shaped by man over millennia. But yeah, I was speaking to Eric Robson, and again, being the sage he is, he says, what are you doing next? I said, I want to do Helvellyn. He says, no, do Blencathra, because I was going to do Blencathra last. And his idea was strike whilst the iron's hot, because I didn't want to start for another year. You know, I wanted a bit of my life back. And he just drilled it into me that when this goes on the telly, you need to strike whilst the iron's hot and get on with the next one, and because there'll be demand for it and all this kind of thing. And so grudgingly, I did Blencathra next, and I knocked that one out in a year. I think it was just 14 months, I think, just over a year. And fortunately, pulled off the second album trick, I suppose. Scafells will always be very special to me, because it's an area that's very close to my heart and I care deeply about. Because again, it's about people and places. It's the beauty of the area, how it makes me feel. Like I say, the environment shapes you and all that kind of thing. It just makes my heart sing when I'm round there. And I enjoy doing Blencathra and stuff like that. But even though technically I think it's probably a better documentary, because my skills had evolved, my confidence had grown, I could afford slightly better equipment as opposed to cheap prosumer cameras and things like that. I could get something that was considered professional, so the image quality would be better and all that kind of thing. And I had ideas for the Scafell film that I didn't have the time, the skills or the money to execute, but I could suddenly with Blencathra. So, and one of those things was a song. I wanted a song about the mountain, and by pure luck I got in contact with with Lee Madison, and he created this song, acoustic song. I can't remember what it was called now, but I absolutely loved it. And I said, I tell you what, mate, change the lyrics and make it all about Blencathra for me, because I really loved the melody in there and I loved his voice in it. And then in my mind's eye and ear, I could envisage Freddie, my composer, doing the orchestration to it, and it'd be something else. And then combining that with the visuals I'd captured over a summer around Blencathra, on Blencathra, looking at Blencathra, it would be, it would turn into something else. And so for me, that's one of my favourite scenes in that documentary, because it kind of reflects how I feel about these areas. So I'll play that for you now.
On Summit Ridge, your fountainhead, so oft a tear a voice shed, and sunrise in its glory greets the mountain. The mountain feels, consoles and heals, kindles and inspires. Many a yarn and fable spun between the fire of rock and sun. For generations dawn to dusk, a hardy folk of undercrust, as sturdy as the herdwick on the mountain. In summertime the pilgrims throng to climb, to cycle, walk or run. Step lightly on sharp edge, my son, the shepherd, he chimed a warning. 500 million years, what mortal could define such chiseled art, a world apart, a monument of timeless time and spirits, like an eagle's soar and glide, where mountains meet the sky, where mountains meet the sky. A fickle mood he breathes and sighs, neath blameless blue or loathing skies, and roars when wind and rain come a-scathing. How still the tranquil lonely tongue, cradled in a grassy coombe, reflects a deep maternal charm, and I wonder, might a mountain have a womb? Or a grassy sward by mountain stream, to leisure work or lofty dream, mind and mountain merge, it seems, in wonder never ceasing. With wild enchantment, joy release, thoughts suspended reverie, time out of mind on the mountain is a mind at peace. What mortal could define such chiseled art, a world apart, a monument of timeless time and spirits, like an eagle's soar and glide, where mountains meet the sky. 500 million years, what mortal could define such chiseled art, a world apart, a monument of timeless time and spirits, like an eagle's soar and glide, where mountains meet the sky. And the spirits, like an eagle's soar and glide, where mountains meet the sky. Where mountains meet the sky. Where mountains meet the sky.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed that. So yeah, off the back of that, again, things changed in my life. At that point, stepchildren had flown the nest, and my wife was sick and tired of me being away for long periods doing these documentaries. And, you know, she's always loved Cumbria and the Lake District as well. So we thought, bugger it, let's go for it. Let's sell up and move to the area. And do you know what? It's like a dream come true for me. And I often joke with folk that I feel like I'm retired now. I'm obviously not. I'm working and everything else. But that feeling of happiness, fulfillment. I'm in an environment that's well, see, I'm not a wordsmith. I'm not a bloody wordsmith. I can't convey it in words. I'm bloody happy. Let's put it that way. My wife jokes now she can't get me out the county. So I'm all right. I might venture to Scotland occasionally and over the border into Yorkshire, but I don't want to be anywhere else. You know, I'm in heaven on earth as far as I'm concerned. You know, it's the people, the culture, the heritage. It's not just the scenery. It's all of it, really. So, sadly, during that period, I had a near fatal cycling accident, and I didn't know it was near fatal till many months later, when my wife told me. Apparently, I was touch and go in hospital that night. And it screwed me up in a bad way. I had very, very severe concussion. Basically what happened is I went about 20 odd mile an hour head first into a stone wall. The wall's still there. Maybe I'm not all quite there still. But yeah, I had lots of physical injuries and what have you. But it was the memory loss and stuff. I couldn't remember anything for about a month before the accident. I'd be constantly walking around the house. What am I doing here? What did I come in here for? This would be all the time. People would tell me how I'd ask the same question over and over every few minutes. So goodness knows how they felt about it, looking at me. But and then yeah, the black dog came a few times. Obviously, whatever had gone off in my head. You know, those hormone imbalances and stuff they talk about. There would be days, just short periods, you know, I'd feel this real intense sense of doom over me, and it was not good. Doctors and that wanted to chuck me the happy pills and what have you to make me feel better, but I didn't want to do anything like that. I knew I could sort of fight it deep down, being a bloody minded stubborn git. I'm not really that stubborn. I'm just bloody minded. I'm determined, and I suppose I've had to be for what I've been doing over the years. But the doctors encouraged me to get outdoors, get outside, keep fit, keep active, get those happy hormones going, and yeah, that's great with me. So it kind of felt like a holiday for about 2-3 months. But as far as my family and friends were concerned, it was a worry for them, because I was still obviously not quite right. Physically, I wasn't tip-top from the accident still, but I pulled through, and it was towards the end of that period where I became normal again, if you like. The spark had come back into my eyes, as people had told me, and that kind of thing. I thought, do you know, it was a suspected heart attack and other things that put the rocket up my rear, and I set out to do Life on Mountain Scafell Pike. Because at the time I thought, what my grandma said to me all those years ago, make the most of your life. And I thought, do you know what, that cycling accident, had done the same thing to me again. And I thought, bugger it, I'm not entirely fit. I know I'm not quite there yet, back to normal. I haven't got the money yet. Sod it, I'm doing Helvellyn. And well, I think it's 3 years now I've spent working on the bloody documentary, so it reminds me a lot of Scafell Pike, and that it's a favourite area of mine. I suppose that love and passion I feel for the area, combined with the kick up the rear with the cycling accident, to the sense of awareness of, because I do live in my bubble a little bit out in the sticks of the Eden Valley, the high expectations people have because of the previous 2 documentaries, but more importantly, it's for me. I'm determined to end the trilogy on a spectacular and moving high, and hopefully it offers a message of hope for the future. There's lots of conflicting and contradictory messages within it. It is a documentary after all, but it does have a sense of hope, a sense of joy. So I'm going to show you a clip. This is almost finished, and it features a beautiful poem by Harriet Fraser. And how this came about was Friends of the Lake District, the charity, got in touch with me, wondering if I could help them out in producing a video to celebrate their 50th anniversary, which would feature Harriet's poem, and it's called In Our Hands. And the idea originally was some students from Cumbria University would produce the video whilst I carried on doing what I'm doing with the Helvellyn film, because at that point I took a couple of students on under my wing from Cumbria University, because at that point I'd been doing some talks for them and stuff like that. Thankfully the students liked me and what have you, didn't find me some boring old fart, so we'd have a crack. And yeah, took them on as like apprentices, and they were helping me out for just over a year, I think it was. And anyway, we bounced ideas around. I took charge of it in the end because I thought, you know what, this is brilliant, I want this in the Helvellyn film. And I've got all this footage I've captured over 2 summers, because it features in the summer chapter. I've got all this footage for the last 2 summers, and a lot of it's just going to be thrown onto the cutting room floor. I could use that in the poem, and so here it is. It's not quite finished because Freddie, the composer, is still working on the score. But hopefully you like it, because the start of it is what I call my Beatrix Potter wink and nod in the documentary. So it's a little twee. But ultimately it's bigger message. How it looks, how it feels. It's kind of, again, it's a reflection of my love for the area and the people here, and what it means to people far and wide coming to places like the Lake District.
To heal the world and give and I know I have been searching all my life, though I haven't found it yet. Until now I can see it's still there, hidden by the mystic air, to be rediscovered one more time.
This is a place for the senses, here under a shared and wild sky.
In a spread of hills and light.
Layered with the conversations of wind and birds and waters fall.
This is a place for the senses.
Land beneath your feet.
Moss, bog and rock.
Fresh fell air, the weather in your face.
Let me take you on a journey.
Through a raven's eyes, look on a world where hills are solid waves.
And lakes spread, ink dark mirrors to the clouds.
Coming close, the first leaf of spring.
A butterfly or a bee,
busy among meadow flowers
that turn to face the sun.
Moments of wonder, like in dressing oaks in grey.
Dawn mist, carpeting a wood, an arc of colour after rain.
in fells and valleys shaped by water, ice, time.
Our own centuries are counting.
In the endless march of handmade walls.
In coppiced woods and hefted flocks.
In the quickening of hearts and the naming of things.
Textured land, common land, held by years of care and toil.
A history of standing up.
Mountain strong.
For farms in the fells.
Towns of the fells.
Flora of the fells.
And dedication to continue to ask, are we on the right road?
In this fragile place.
A woodland or a lake.
Knows nothing of uncertainty.
Of shifting climates or politics or money.
Nor does it know
the certainty of love.
How the will to protect what matters
can outlast a raging storm.
This is a place of land and lives interwoven.
Memory and hope, light and shade.
It seems timeless, but time ticks on.
And the future's in our hands.
This is a place for imagining, for treading softly,
for shaping and sharing what happens next.
So yeah, hopefully you like that. I mentioned the university because, funny enough, this is where this is going right now on their website. Because it was... Right, what month are we on now? September. Is it September? No, it's not. It's bloody October. It's October, right. I don't know what day or month it is off time. I just go with the seasons. I really do. That's what I mean. I live in my own little bloody bubble at times, and it's not necessarily good. I need to get out more. Out on the fells, I mean. Yeah, it was. I think it was late last year, and I had a meeting with the university because they was financially supporting me on the project, and obviously I took a couple of students on under my wing, who I'm extremely proud of, because they've absolutely blossomed. You know, when I first started working with them, to be frank, they were poo, and I realised after about a month or so, I'm going to have to do some proper one-to-one tuition with them. And so I kicked their ears, so to speak, and we did a dawn raid, as I call it. So we were up at 3 in the morning, and we were up on the fells for something like 6 o'clock. I think this was in autumn. So it was cold and all that, and they were hooked. And that was it. They never thought twice about staying out the night with me, getting up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning to go out places. They were hooked, and that was lovely to see, but particularly to see how they've blossomed with their skills. And you know, some of their shots, you know, their footage does feature throughout the documentary of Helvellyn, but I'm certain, you know, you'll be struggling to spot whether it's me behind the camera or them, and that's why I'm really proud of them. Now, I hope some good things happen for them when the documentary is finally unleashed and their names are in the credits. So yeah, and it was at that period I got made a professor of practice, so a very proud moment in my life. And so all these things have been going on, but at the same time I've been busy with the Helvellyn film, determined it's going to be the most spectacular one yet. So you're going to see a bit of footage now. One of the things I was keen to do with the documentary is that there'd be like 4 or 5 big set pieces in the documentary, and this is a little peek at one of them, and it's the RAF. Now you might be thinking, what the hell's the RAF got to do with Helvellyn? But for those in the know, Helvellyn is the one and only British mountain an aircraft had landed on and safely took off from. And that was in the 1920s. Excuse me, coughing, I need a bit more tea. And the pilot that features lives in Patterdale as well. Lives at the foot of Helvellyn. And on top of that, there's the heritage, isn't there? The RAF often fly around the Lake District doing their low-level flight training. Yeah, and there's a little clip.
100 Squadron's role in the Air Force, we're the RAF's Aggressor Squadron, so we provide operational support to the front line, primarily to our Typhoons and to our F-35 Lightnings, where we act as an adversary aircraft, a highly agile fighter, to conduct their training.
Once again, hopefully that whets the appetite. Freddie, my composer, he's done a cracking job on the score, hasn't he? A little tell behind that sequence is, because I didn't want to show it all, because it's not long to the premiere, so you'll have to go, well, actually I think the premiere's sold out in Ambleside, but there's going to be an online premiere with the London Mountain Film Festival. £6, bargain. It'll be available internationally. There's going to be lots of extras as well. There's a documentary TV cameraman did on me a year ago about the trilogy. And there's going to be some pre-recorded interviews with some household names and stuff that feature in my documentaries and whatnot. And I don't really know about all that. The festival lot are organising that. I said I don't want to know. It's too embarrassing. And they better say nice things about me. But anyway, so that's happening. So do look out for that. But yeah, Freddie and I were discussing, because Freddie lives in Tel Aviv, he's Israeli, and we've never met face to face over these 8-9 years. And the wonders of technology, the internet, and we do lots of WhatsApp phone calls and video calls and things like that. And there was a call we did a few weeks back discussing the soundtrack, and it was the RAF sequence came up, and I said, just play it straight, you know, keep with your main theme, your motif, but variations of it, but I want it exciting and so on and so forth, because it kind of is like a roller coaster ride through the Lake District. And Freddie had this idea about making it like 633 Squadron and stuff, and I was like, no, Freddie, don't do anything like that. No, that's just too much, it's over the top. And he said, trust me, just let me do it. And you've heard it. And well, there you go. It's teamwork for you, innit? It's a two-way thing. You know, what I might do inspires him, and what he does with the music inspires me, because I end up going back and changing the bloody edits, which is annoying because it adds more time, eats up more of my time when I want to be doing other things, especially when work's involved. Yeah, so here's a little clip where, towards the end of the film, featuring Gordy Oliver from Air Ventures and his pals, and again, this is part of a bigger set piece sequence where I wanted to, obviously this is in winter, so it's coming up to the end of the documentary, I wanted to have this other big set piece. So we see people skiing down the face of Helvellyn, but I wanted something more spectacular, if you like, a bird's eye view of the area, and that's where the paraglide is coming to it, and how Freddie has gone about doing the music again is just fantastic. It just makes your heart sing. It brings that joy there, and that's really what the film is all about.
We're in a very fortunate position of being able to walk up a mountain and not have to walk down, thanks to the beauty of these paragliders. The simplest form of flight, really, man's oldest dream. So for me personally, this is now nearly 30 years to the day when I first flew off this mountain, when I was 19 years old when I first learned to fly. I've now taught this sport for the last 30 years. Many people are always saying, you must be nuts chucking yourself off here. It's a very safe sport to do. The knowledge is in being smart about the weather, understanding the weather. And here we are now, about to jump off over this beautiful Helvellyn vista to harness the power of the elements and to carry us down into the valley and hopefully land right next to the pub if all goes well.
Properly waffled on too much. Some of you may be on that third or fourth beer because you're that bored, or you're at the kettle now getting another brew, not caring otherwise. So I do apologise if I've waffled on a lot, because I really could talk to the cows come home, or should I say the herdwicks off the fells, so that'd be a long bloody time. I could talk to the cows come home about it all, and, well, I don't know what else to say, really. You know, I feel very, very lucky. I'm very fortunate. Dreams can come true. But places like Cumbria, the Lake District, are really important. More important than ever now for everybody. We're all very much aware of our impact on the world now as a species, and those things can come back and bite us on the rear. And if you just bring people out to places like the Lake District National Park, the Peak District National Park, wherever, it can change people. It can inspire people. It does inspire people. It does change people. It did for me. It has for countless other people, of all backgrounds, all walks of life. Because too often I feel with urban living and technology, people become disconnected from the real world, the natural world. We are part of the ecosystem of this planet. So showing people places like I'm trying to do with Life on Mount Helvellyn, hopefully inspire them. They see something so beautiful, they want to go there and see it with their own eyes, because that's something I take great pride in. Everything you see is in camera. You know, there's a lot of work involved and a lot of luck to get that light and drama and everything else, because that's what makes my heart sing, and hopefully sings on the screen when you're watching it, and maybe singing here for you when you're watching it, and encourages you or others to go out there, even if they've never been here before, to see it with their own eyes. And that could have a positive, profound impact on them, and therefore they'll care more about the environment and places like the Lake District and Cumbria, because in recent years it's been obvious commercial interests, a commercial interest attitude has been creeping in. The Lake District's faced lots of threats over the years, hence it became a national park in the first place, of course. But it's not about money. You know, some things in life money can't buy. And yes, we do have to think about jobs, people's livelihoods, but not really about commercial interest. It's a national park, not a theme park, and it's there for us all. We have to protect it. We have to conserve it. More importantly, we have to enhance it. So hopefully, what I've done with my work over the last 8-9 years, and what I've set out to achieve with the Helvellyn film, will give everybody a voice, encourage people to think, care, become enlightened, and more importantly, be inspired and think about the future and care about the future and places like the Lake District. And if I've achieved that, I'll be a very happy man, and that will be my legacy forever. I'll probably be forgotten about after that, doing other things, but if I can end it on a high and do those good things for people out there, for everybody, inspire them, inspire somebody like myself as a young boy, anything, it's hope, it's joy, and let's care and protect about it. So if you want to find out more on a lighter note, now I know I said I'm not a wordsmith. I have got a book out, coffee table book. There you go. And it's part biography and part lots of lovely, nice photos I've taken over the last, decade, I suppose. Because I was backpacking and that before all the films. So yeah, there you go. Have a look out for that. And you can, if you're so inclined, you can find out more about me and my work. There's lots of tales in there. Stuff where I've had accidents on the fells and all sorts of bloody stuff. But yeah, thank you for listening, and maybe see you on the fell one day, and hopefully you'll tune in to the premiere online for Life on Mount Helvellyn. Thank you.
This is a place for the senses, memory and hope, light and shade. This is a place of land and lives interwoven.